All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. This week we got the Sanderson Farms Championship, and all in all, I think that this is going to be a good week. I think it's going to be one that we can attack. Last year we were on the winner, Sebastian Munoz. He was a core play that week as well, so hit him as an outright. Pretty interesting looking at the DraftKings pricing, to be honest with you. You can really make any lineup path you want this week work, and I'll touch on that with the plays here in just a second. All right, so as always, I do like to do that quick recap of last week. So just looking at the high tier plays, they all did pretty well. Really, the theme of last week was that we really should have just tried to fit the high tier guys into the player pool or into our builds, and then really went with the value plays on the low end. Charlie Hoffman was able to make the cut. Shank was able to make the cut. Patrick Rogers was able to make the cut. Where the trouble came was in that low tier. It was a very risky tier. I kind of mentioned that and echoed that. So was the value tier, but Ryan here, he was able to kind of make the cut. He played well, so the studs and duds approach was the actual lineup construction that we should have went with. Overall, though, last week wasn't a horrible week. You guys can see here, Will Gordon, chalky disappointment kind of for everyone. It kind of sucks that DraftKings really the last 3 weeks has kind of forced us into some plays that were the correct plays, and they just didn't work out. But I kind of knew that, like, hey, we have no reason to fade these guys other than, the fact that there's no reason to fade them. It seems like that's been happening the last 3 weeks. It was Will Gordon this week, Terrell Hatton the week before that, and Mark Hubbard the week before that. Strangely, all priced right around, but just an interesting week last week. It wasn't a bad week. It wasn't a good week. Like I said, lineup construction would have been the key there, and just didn't have it correct last week. But this week is one where you can really go any which way with your lineup path, and I'll talk about the plays here right now. So key stats, we know what to look for. Like I said, last year we nailed Sebastian Munoz as a core play. He went off and was able to play well. The only problem with early season DFS is that there's high variance in early season DFS. You're getting a lot of players that haven't played for a few months, or you're getting players that have just not been playing well for a few months. So it kind of goes both ways there. And then on top of that, the data that we're going off of is either too old or too recent to really have confidence in behind it, statistical confidence. And so, but we do know which key stats to go off of. We've got total driving. This is a course where it is hard to hit the fairways. Okay. I think it was the third hardest course to hit the fairways last year. It was under 60%, but the rough isn't that penalizing. Sure, if you're really offline, then the course is pretty tree lined and you can get into some danger. And that's really the only danger that this course has, is that it's tighter and it's tree lined. So really this is a second shot golf course. So I think the most important stat this week will be strokes gained approach. I do like to look at birdie to bogey ratio this week, and then par 5 scoring as well. There's 4 par 5s, and if the players are going to be scoring on the par 5s, they're going to be setting themselves up to be able to make the cut. Some players that have good course history here are Sam Burns, Sebastian Munoz. Sebastian Munoz, last year's winner. We also made 2 straight cuts before that. Carlos Ortiz has a pair of top 5 finishes here in the last 4 years. And then JT Poston has also made 4 straight cuts here at this course. So it's pretty interesting to see that Sebastian Munoz and Carlos Ortiz, they play well in the fall. They're fall golfers. We need to have a category for that. Strokes gained, fall golf, and those two would probably be leading it, as well as Russell Knox, it seems like. But looking at recent form, Will Zalatoris obviously been in great recent form. Scotty Scheffler been on a tear. You could also throw Louis Oosthuizen in there. Patrick Rogers just been a cut maker, 7 straight make cuts for him. And Emiliano Grillo, 6 straight make cuts for him as well. Kind of like him this week. So let's get into the picks for this week. All right, guys. So getting into the player pool for this week. Something interesting happened. So Louis Oosthuizen actually withdrew while I was making this video. That's pretty rare. That's interesting. So I wasn't going to be on him, so that kind of sucks. I don't think he would have been the best play this week. I don't have to point this out, but I will. If you guys can pay up for Scotty Scheffler, you should do it. Sanjay M going to be a great pick. Will Zalatoris I like as well. Don't really have to touch on those plays. Those are kind of obvious. I like to do the less obvious plays. So Sam Burns I do like as a play. Pretty decent course history, 45th, 3rd, 43rd finish, so 3 straight make cuts here. Been playing well recently. He did have that missed cut at the Northern Trust. If he could really just get rid of that one horrible round that he has, he would have much better finishes. But he is a top 10 stat fit. Heck, he's top 5 this week. I really like him. 21st in par 5 scoring, 60th in strokes gained approach, 30th in birdie to bogey ratio, and he's top 30 in total driving and ball striking. So I really do like Sam Burns as a play this week. I think if you guys can pay it for him, you should. Kind of a hit or miss play kind of the whole year last year was Doc Redman. Dude needs to be a little bit more consistent, if you will, but he is grading out as a great play. Really strong in a lot of aspects of his game. Second in strokes gain approach, which I really like to see. Fourth in birdie to bogey ratio. He's also ninth in strokes gain differential, which is a stat that I'm looking at this week. So I really like him as a play. The only problem with him is that he's a little bit hit or miss. He did have a 52nd finish here last year. You guys can see the recent form: T3 miscut, T3 229. So it's just he's a little bit too hit or miss for me to be like a core play, but I'm definitely gonna be on him a decent amount. Then going a little bit lower, I do want to point out Luke List. Guy is playing really well right now. He's a top 5 stat fit this week. Kind of sucks in strokes gain approach and also total putting, which worries me a little bit, but he's total driving and ball striking the ball super well, and he is scoring on par 5. So, that should be able to help him. He did have a miscut here last year, but the last time we played it before that, he did have a second overall finish. So once again, more of his GPP play this week, but the high risk, high reward there. So I like that play as well. Then going down to a somewhat safer play in the mid-tier, we got Emiliano Grillo. Emiliano Grillo has just been making a ton of cuts. 6 straight made cuts in a row. Top 20 stat fit. 12th in strokes gain approach. 28th in that birdie to bogey ratio. He's ball striking the ball really well. 10th in that. 53rd in total driving. He also had a made cut here last year with the 39th finish, so I really like him. I think he's going to be a strong play at that price point. You're kind of paying up a little bit for a made cut, but I like that approach this week. Bug Holly, decent stat fit this week, don't mind it. Carlos Ortiz, I already mentioned, he's kind of a fall golf guy. If you guys want to pay up for him, you can. He's the top 15 stat fit. Then these two. Patrick Rodgers, I like the price point again this week. Going to be tough to pass him up. He had a 61st finish here last year, 14th finish the year before that. Just been making a ton of cuts, and he finally had like showed that upside last week. So I like him again as a play this week. It seems safe. It seems like he should, kind of just be locked into a made cut. Cameron Davis, another play that I really, really like. 5 straight made cuts in a row, and they've all been T36 or better, which is a great sign. 28th finish here last year. Top 12 stat fit this week. Really doesn't have a weakness in his game except for that total putting, but kind of casually been getting better. So really like Cameron Davis at that price point. I wouldn't be shocked if Cameron Davis finally goes out and wins one. Then after that, dipping down slightly into the low tier, we got Denny McCarthy here. So Denny McCarthy I do really like as a play. He typically has been a cut maker throughout his career. He did that miscut at the Safeway Open, but he still shot a pretty good score there. 300 par, that's not bad. It just wasn't enough to make the cut. Before that, he had just been on a tear as well. Heck, it's been a while since he hasn't played well or good golf. -3 at the Travelers, even par at the Workday. Those are still good scores at those courses. Wasn't bad golf, so we know that he is most likely going to go out and play some good golf. He had an 18th finish here last year, 7th year before that, and a miscut the year before that. He grades out as someone that should make the cut, and he grades out as someone that I'm trusting to make the cut. Charlie Hoffman, decent play last week. I wish he would have played a little bit better on the weekend stretch. It would have been a profitable week for me if he had done that. He ended up in the main build, which I was uncomfortable with, but it kind of ended up working out with that T14 finish. Hoffman, he had a 23rd finish here last year. Overall, he's a solid player. We know who Charlie Hoffman is. He's kind of playing in these events because he has to, because he played poorly last year. I think he's going to have a really spectacular year this year. I like this price point for him. Don't go crazy with it, but I do like him as a play. Again this week, DraftKings really priced down a lot of players that we were high on last week, which is kind of surprising. Brian Stewart, I do want to point out as a play. Decent play here for you. 28th finish here last year. Miscut the year before that. 4th the year before that. 21st stat fit, so not a horrible ranking there. I do like him pretty well. Top 20 in my model as well. Pretty decent recent form. T51 miscut, T3, T33, so not a bad play at his price point. That's going to be the key there. There's a lot of decent plays at their current price points. One of those is actually going to be Cameron Piercy, and I'm worried that he could be chalky, although I don't see many people trusting him that much. Top 20 stat fit, top 15 in my model this week. Really doesn't have a weakness in his game once again, except for the strokes gain total, which kind of worries me because most of the time that's a pretty predictive stat, but other than that, everything else is like T55 or better. 11th year last year, 34th finish the year before that, and a 42nd finish 4 years ago. So at this price point, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to pass him up. He grades out as someone that should be able to make the cut, and he grades out as someone that really should be able to push for a top 20 finish. So All right, so we can actually dip into the value tier this week. I know last week I didn't feel comfortable with it, although I should have. Someone pointed out that the model last week actually had Hudson Swafford as a top 10 stat fit, or top 10 play. He was one of the best stat fits in the field. Wasn't on him last week. Sometimes the model knows more than I do, I guess. But that's why we do it. That's why you have to have that information out there. All right, so getting to the value tier, I do think that this is going to be a spot that we can attack and attack pretty aggressively. It's pretty crazy, some of the pricing here. So Mark Hubbard, a guy that we were on a ton, isn't in the best recent form, but, he could definitely go on and pop. Kyle Stanley finally showing some, good recent form. Don't mind him as a play, but kind of a standout play this week is freaking Adam Schenk. Can someone explain this pricing for me? I really don't get it. Sure, he hasn't shown the best upside recently, but he's made 8 straight cuts in a row. 36 finish here last year, 7th year before that, 43rd finish the year before that. Grades out as a top 35 stat fit, which isn't the best, but at this price point, it's just so frustrating. This is going to be hard to pass up. And, we probably should, but I don't know. It's just going to be tough to pass up. Then I do need to point out Ventura, going back up to the low tier one more time. I don't get this pricing either. This was like a 9K play last week, and now he's priced at 7.2. Hasn't played this course, granted, but top 10 in total driving and ball striking. He's just absolutely hitting the ball really well, except for on his approach game. His approach game is pretty poor, but 4 straight make cuts in a row. Really been playing some solid golf for the last, pretty much since the break. He's just been playing some great golf, so that pricing is just very intriguing there for Ventura. But let's get back down to the value tier here. Just honestly, too many good plays. So Vincent Whaley here, I don't mind as a play. Casually been making 3 straight cuts in a row. Casually popping as a top 30 stat fit. So don't mind him as a play at his price point. 45th finish here last year as well. So made cut last year, which is something you like to see. Rob Oppenheim, which this is a play that I wish I was on last week. It was kind of a sharp play to be on him, and I just wasn't on it. I didn't want to dip into that salary range last week, but miscut here last year, 18th in 2016 and mid-cut in 2015. Not a bad play. He's good in strokes gained approach. He's 31st in birdie to bogey ratio, and really he's just been finding ways to make the cut recently, so that's something that I like to see. I mean, those are strong finishes, T33, T36, T15, T29, so, pretty decent play at this price point. Then we can go a little bit lower here. I really actually like David Hearn at his price point. Casually decent play here. 23rd finish, miscut, 59th finish in the last 3 years at this course. He's kind of just an accurate guy, relatively decent form. Just seems a little bit too cheap for kind of the player that he is. And then I do want to point out Austin Cook as a lower play as well. A guy has been finding ways to make cut. It's rare that you see a guy make 7 straight cuts and be priced this low. He's a top 40 stat fit. His course history is kind of poor. Miscut, 25th finish, miscut. That's not great, but still. There's lots of lineup paths that we can go with this week to potentially get, a studs and duds lineup with 6 for 6, and, he could help you get there. So lots of great plays in the value tier, lots of great plays in the low tier, mid tier, and high tier. All right, guys, if you want to join 9 to 5, it is only $10 a month. I call it the best kept secret in DFS. We've been on a tear pretty much the last 2 months or so. Just that slight edge that you gain with 9 to 5 each and every week is going to help you be profitable in the long term, help you become a better player. And that's really the goal that I have in mind, is to, one, make winning easy. A lot of times people just put out a ton of content, a ton of articles, try to make it more difficult than it really is. I like to just put out the content, be straightforward. These are the plays. This is how it's going to help you profit. And then that's how you can go out and profit. So if you guys want to check that out, it's $10 a month. Link is in the description below. If not, please just give me a like and subscribe, guys. It always does help out. Thanks. Appreciate it. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.